Is oxygen not included a colony simulator? Is it a city builder? Is it a factory automation game? Is it a survival crafting sim? Does it defy categorization in a world of labels? Watch on and find out. My name is Thoraxe, and this is Strategy for Busy People. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you what to play. Oxygen Not Included, or ONI, was released by Klei Entertainment way back in 2019, so it's not exactly new. A guy I know had stayed at my house for a couple of days right after the COVID pandemic, and we ended up watching ONI tutorials on YouTube for hours. I knew I wanted to give it a try, but I only just got around to it. I put about 18 and a half hours into exploring. Note that there is a DLC called Spaced Out, which allows you to explore multiple planetoids and build interplanetary stuff. I did not play that here. It was just vanilla for me. It seems ONI is a pretty culty game along the lines of things like Dwarf Fortress or RimWorld. It has absolutely fervent fans who spend hundreds upon hundreds of hours in the game. People are still, years later, finding out interesting ways to combine equipment to make self-sufficient this or that. It is both a reason to like the game or to hate it. On the hate it side, unless you are willing to explore, tinker, and experiment, the game will probably seem quite frustrating. It is almost entirely aimless, like many survival games. You're dumped into a place, not really given much direction, and simply told to survive. There are a few game mode objectives that you can enable, but even in close to 20 hours of gameplay, I didn't really find any of them. I suppose that means I was still just in the early game? The title, Oxygen Not Included, does give some inkling into one of the key mechanics of the game: gas management. If your first thought was farts, ironically, you are not wrong. You see, ONI takes place essentially in an underground cave. You dig out places to build your base and encounter various gases along the way. While your duplicants are basically 3D printed clones made from genetic goop, they are humanoid and require oxygen. If they don't get enough of it, they suffocate and die. Managing carbon dioxide is just as important as making sure there's adequate oxygen. And those farts? Well, flatulence is a negative trait on your duplicants, and it really does cause natural gas buildup in the atmosphere, which would need to be managed. It's not a good idea to start with 3 farty dupes. Your dupes can learn various skills, and those skills allow them to perform more complex tasks. At first, you can pretty much just dig your base and build a few basics. You can create a research station that allows you to, unsurprisingly, research advanced technologies to build fancier things in your base. You start with a literal dupe hamster wheel for making power and some crappy batteries, and can advance through coal power, oil, and even fancier renewables later. Managing the power in terms of wiring, transformers, circuit protection, lighting, and more is a real challenging part of the game. In fact, just about every system brings something interesting, deep, and exciting to the game. Your dupes need fresh water for hand washing and bathing. Hygiene and germ management are important because your dupes can get food poisoning or other diseases. Finding fresh water can be hard. Moving it around requires planning your plumbing, and keeping the clean water separated from polluted water is also vitally important. If one of your dupes has an accident and ends up peeing on the floor, that polluted water might just end up running along the floor and falling down into your nice clean water reservoir. Oops. Time to reload that autosave to try to figure out how to prevent that pee accident. Even things like managing the priority of your duplicants' activities and managing their schedules involve some complex system or another. Since dupes use the restroom and then wash their hands, and always do this before they eat, and always do this before they go to bed, keeping track of how many toilets, sinks, eating tables, and beds you have is important. There's also a complex system of duplicant morale under the covers. Building nicer accommodations can grant morale bonuses, and, in general, there are various ways to create specialty rooms that give morale or production bonuses. As your dupes skill up, this costs them morale in a way, and making sure they have a high enough morale level to take on their skills is critical. Dupes whose morale is too low will get stressed out and ultimately can have a nervous breakdown, which unleashes a stress reaction. That could be vomiting, which would spread germs and be a real problem. As I mentioned before, people are, to this day, finding out new and interesting things to optimize efficiency in setting up bases in this game. There are a metric ton of YouTube tutorials on how to do different things in the game. I more or less found myself watching John Francis's tutorials while playing the game and trying to adapt the things he built to the particular map seed that I was using. Sure, the little carbon dioxide covered food ration storage had the same layout, but I ended up putting it somewhere else because my starting water was in a different place, and well, perhaps you get the point. Playing along this way did ensure a pretty successful and stress-free experience, but it was a bit like painting by numbers. You may end up with a Picasso lookalike when you are done, but did you really enjoy doing it? Before I give my final verdict, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share with your friends. Agree with me? Disagree with me? Or want to see other content? Let me know in the comments below. Want to try this game yourself? Check out my humble affiliate link below. And if you want to support me in making more of these videos, become a patron on Patreon. Your support really makes a difference. The final verdict. This game is insanely deep, complex, and fulfilling when all your systems are working right. But if you spend too much time painting by the numbers, it may be a little less fulfilling. Part of the joy in this game is probably the experimentation. What does this tool do? How can I use it? What if I combine this thing and that thing in such and such a way? Does it help? Does my colony instantly fail? So, if you're a tinkerer or experimenter type, this game is going to really float your boat and allow you acres of room to explore. And if you run into a snag, you can surely find a tutorial about what to do. On my trademark 3-point score scale of avoid, meh, and I forgot to eat, I ate an awful lot of disgusting muckroot and meal lice, but ultimately I was able to drown my hatches and make plentiful, glorious barbecue. And it was totally worth it. To play this game. Not to murder small animals. That's wrong, but delicious.